Another state fair is in the books and the results are in. How did we do? Did we get any ribbons? What did the judges like, if anything? What did they say we needed to improve? And most importantly, what are my takeaways from this, and would I do this again? So first, let's look at the results, because we entered these over a month ago. It takes a while for them to judge it, and then they're on display for 10 days at the state fair. So let's start off with Amanda's socks. She knit these beautiful pair of socks. I think she did a fantastic job. It's a beautiful heart pattern here, and the judges seem to like it too, because they awarded her second place. Next up is a cushion that I put into the sewing category, and it was a mixture of some log cabins and some woven stars. This is all foundation paper piecing, just some different scrap pieces of fabric I had laying around. This was a fun project I've been doing with Katie, and I figured I'd throw it in and see what the judges thought. And again, they liked it. They gave me a second place ribbon. And finally was the quilt that I entered. I've entered a quilt into the doll quilt category for the last 5 years, and I've received a ribbon for every single one. I've got 2/3, 2 honorable mentions, but the competition is getting tougher each and every year. So I wasn't quite so sure how this one would do. So there's a total of 9 stars. They're the same woven stars as you saw in the previous project. They represent the countries that are different, represent the flags of the different countries that we've hosted our exchange students from, so 9 in total. And I was very surprised when I got a picture last week showing that I'd gotten a second place rosette here. So I got second place. I am super excited about this. I was not expecting that at all. Very, very honored, very privileged to receive this award. So generally in the fairs, the judges will write a short note on most items, and then the quilts, they tend to do a more in-depth report on what they liked and what areas can be improved. So that's one of the things I look forward to each year, because even if I don't get a ribbon in a category, it's nice to know what they liked and what they didn't, so you can make improvements on the following year. So first up on Amanda's socks, unfortunately, they did not put any notes on here, but she got the second place, so they obviously liked something about it, which is really cool. She's very happy with the result, and she's already thinking about next year and how to get another ribbon, maybe even first again. She's won 3 first places in the past. Next up is the cushion here, and they did put some notes on mine. It was very limited, but that's okay. I was not expecting a long, drawn-out thing either. And they said that they loved the beautiful colors, but I did need to trim the loose threads. There's quite a few of those floating around here. This was put together last minute. I was lucky to get it into the fair, so you know, that's the worst they can tell me on this. I'm a very happy puppy. I'm going to maybe try this category again next year and see if I can get a blue ribbon. We'll have to see. So on the quilt, they generally give you a nice report piece of paper like this with some notes, and that's very helpful because it kind of tells you where you need to improve. So for this one here, they started off with the piecing, and they didn't really give me a whole lot of comments on this. I thought they'd pick me apart because some of these points are off horribly, so I'm not complaining about that. They really seem to enjoy that. Next up was the quilting, and that's actually the stitching and the quilting and everything else. Here you can see I've done lines around the edge and then some stars on all the background areas here along the straight lines on the colored stars themselves. They said here that the design was very well chosen, which I'm ecstatic about because there's a story behind that. And then they also said area to be improved, that some of the start and stopped areas need to be unobtrusive. I'm still learning how to free motion quilt, so you know, I'm going to take this into consideration for next time. It's wonderful feedback to have. I know that's an area I need to improve on. The borders, they gave me a nice check mark or tick, and then also with the binding, they seemed to like my binding. The only thing they told me for areas that need to be improved was sewing down the mitered corners. In Virginia, they required you to hand sew the mitered corners down. I've done this the last couple of years. It doesn't look perfect on here, and it's just something they asked me to improve on, which I'll definitely do for next year. I'll have some more practice by then. And finally, under the overall section, they just had a couple of notes for me. The first one is they asked me to remove the fibers. You're supposed to turn these things in clear with no binding fibers or anything else, and when you do black background, the binding fibers just tend to go absolutely everywhere. And if anyone remembers, I was putting this hanging sleeve on the morning I was taking it up there on my live, so I did my best to get it all off. I know I didn't. Maybe next time I won't leave it till the last minute so I can actually do that. And then finally, this is the thing that kind of really made my day. The notes say at the bottom, very well done, lovely. I have not got that sort of comment before, so I really must have impressed the judge. It really makes me happy and makes me feel like I am getting better at this, which is absolutely fantastic. This is a yearly tradition. As soon as I bring the quilts home from the state fair, I hang them up to replace the ones that were hanging up there last year. So what do you think of it hanging up there? I think it looks absolutely stunning. Anyway, now it's time to talk about my takeaways from this, and I was thinking about this on the drive back from Richmond, and had quite a few points to talk about. The first one is, even if it's not perfect, if you want to enter it, you should go ahead and do so. This one here, the points were off. They were really not good. I was very disappointed I was putting it together, but I ran out of time, and I promised Becca and Ian that I'd compete against them this year, and I just went ahead and put it in. I'm so glad I did. If I hadn't put this in, this probably would have been the end of it for me for quilt shows, because I was a little disappointed just because I thought this one would go together very well, and I just really didn't have any great expectations of this doing well. So you've got to be in it to win it. If you put something together, just put it in. It's okay if it doesn't, if it's not perfect, because at the end of the day, no one else's is either. Point 2 is, you are often better than you think. I talked to several people about putting this in, and everyone said this is going to win a ribbon. I was like, sure, I hope you're right, but I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't. And most of the people I was talking to were my colleagues and workmates who weren't quilters, so I don't quite understand how the process goes. But, you know, they'll like to be supportive, and I'm so glad that they are like that. But yeah, if you look at it, sometimes you are your own worst critic, and I know I certainly am. So again, this is just something that's taught me that often your work is better than what you think it is, and that's a good lesson to learn. I've also learned over the years not to get too disappointed when not everything goes right. Quilt shows are tough, and the competition is tough, and some of the people that you're competing against have been doing this longer than you have, maybe longer than you've been alive. And if you're working full-time, or even if you're not working full-time, spending the time to put a quilt even this size together and quilt it to the way that they want it to be can take hours and hours and hours. So, you know, don't be disappointed if you don't get the results. Take those notes, read them, take them as someone trying to encourage you to do better next time, and you know, try again next year, because you just never know. It may also take you a while to get it right and actually get some results. I've been very fortunate. I've ribboned every time I've put in a doll quilt, but that's just been a lot of luck and some good skill too, I think. But this is my 5th year of entering into this category, and I'm only now just kind of feeling comfortable in knowing what the judges like, what they are looking for, and having the skill set to be able to do that. So if you go into it the first year and you get a bunch of notes showing that you need areas of improvement, don't worry about that. You will definitely learn and get that skill set as time goes on. I've also learnt not to be afraid, even if it's not perfect. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, if you're on the fence about putting something into a show, I encourage you to do it. Just throw it in, see what happens. I did that 5 years ago. Throwing it in for the first time is sometimes the scariest thing you ever do. And you just never know if you're going to get a good result, or if nothing else, some valuable feedback. And the feedback is just as valuable as any ribbon you may get. Even if you don't win a prize, you should get one of these wonderful notes that kind of tells you what you need to improve on and what things you did right. These have been very encouraging for me, because I didn't know my binding was all that good, and every year they've always told me, hey, your stuff is fantastic, your binding, there's no complaints there, and that was one of the areas I really worried about. So, you know, you may learn areas where you need to improve, and you may actually get some encouragement to know that there's certain areas that you're doing right. And would I do this again? An outstanding yes. If you'd asked me 2 or 3 months ago before I put that quilt in, I would have said, I don't know, maybe I'm done, maybe I've had my fun, it's time to move on. But no, this result, as expected, has given me a big boost of confidence. I would happily do it again, and I'm looking forward to doing this in 2026. And I'm already finalizing my design for next year, which is really weird, because normally I don't get the design finalized or even picked out till about May or June. Maybe that means I'll get it done before the last day. Who knows? Anyway, have you entered it into a quilt show before? And if not, let me know, what quilt are you planning on working on next? I'd love to hear what your next big plan is as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button. Tell a friend. I always love hearing comments from my viewers. I hope you'll have a great day. Happy sewing, and we'll see you next time.